So what I wanted to do today was actually kind of talk to you, or give you a highlight of what I call my 9 pithy career statements. And each of them kind of has a story behind them. Give you a quick overview of my background, and then see what you guys really want me to talk about. I think I have been through a lot of different things and have learned over the course of my career, hopefully things that will be valuable. I do want to tell you I'm 40. The only reason why I tell you I'm 40 is that I've sort of been through lots of stuff. 40 is not old, but I've definitely been through a lot of experiences that kind of have culminated into these statements. And I really strive to be very honest. So if there are questions that normally you don't feel comfortable asking, ask them, and I will answer them as honestly as possible. But I'm going to start with this first, and then go into my background, and then we're going to come back after I go into my background and see what people want me to kind of talk more about. So the first thing that I believe in is that you should have kind of a North Star in your life. And that doesn't mean that you have to follow it, in a straight line, but that you should have a direction. And so in the world of career, it could mean that you want to change the face of space, right? And of course, you need a little bit more definition around that. But you should have something that guides you, but you should know and be comfortable with that a lot of times that path is not a straight line. You will go left and right, you will go backwards. And if you really want to start something, you have to be comfortable with that, kind of going back and forth and that change. That's one. The second is about seeking and speaking the truth. And as an entrepreneur, one of the most important things, and as a professional, is to really seek the truth. And so that means, I started a company and my partnership wasn't working out. It was a friend of mine that I started working with, and that it took me a long time to admit that we just kind of were terrible as business partners. And that's really hard to admit because there's a lot of things around that. So it's really important, in the course of your life, really honestly, to seek the truth, and more importantly, to bring it up and speak it. And I'll talk about the times when I didn't do that. The third is that there are times in your life, especially if you're doing your own company, that you need to be fearless. I will tell you shortly that I probably met with almost all the top tier investors in the Valley. And some of them will believe and some of them will don't. And then you just have to walk in and own those meetings and own those rooms and really just display a level of fearlessness. And so that's really important to remember, is that there are these times that you have to break out of your discomfort, your shyness, sort of the doubt, right? And just be fearless about things. The fourth is when 5 is better than 500. And my friend was like, when is 5 ever better than 500? So I am a true believer that in the world of networks and relationships, less high quality ones are better than many superficial. So basically throughout my career until the past 3 years, there were maybe 5 people I knew very, very well. And there were people that were well connected, and they ended up getting me into every investor I needed to know and every partnership I needed to know for my company. Versus, had I known 500 people, but very superficially, you guys have probably heard this, people would not have helped me out to that same degree. We're going to talk about why mentors really matter. So I'll give you the summary is, not only should you find people who are going to help and mentor you, you should find people who are or are going to be successful. Because those are the people that you can piggyback off on and that will open doors for you. So I'll talk about kind of, if you're interested in the dimensions of finding mentors who you connect with, but also being strategic, right, about finding people you authentically like, but can hopefully open doors to the worlds that you want to get into. So 6 is super important, is it's really when you are founding your own company, it's really important to think about the intersection of what you love, but what you're great at. And so I had the first company that I co-founded or helped with, I realized that I wasn't very good at it, and I wasn't super passionate about it, and so it wasn't very successful. So over the course of sort of your life, you have to figure out not only like maybe you love building rockets, but you're not actually really passionate about space, you're not very good about it. So you have to kind of really have that honesty about finding that intersection. The 7th is you learn if you will ever talk to investors. Most companies don't have explosive growth like Snapchat or Instagram. And so how do you actually tell the story? What are they looking for? And I learned this very importantly, is in the absence of explosive growth when you fundraise, what are the things that you can do to help bring credibility and validity to you and your idea? 8th, if you ever want to found a company, it's kind of like dating. I think it's even harder actually when you found a company, but partnership is hard. It's super hard. It's super hard to have a co-founder and to really get along every single day. It's a hard thing. And the last one, and probably the most important that I did not follow in my own company, is sometimes making a bad decision is better than making no decision at all. And so this one I'll probably talk more about. That one of the worst things for you starting a company is to basically punt on decision making and never moving forward. It's better sometimes to make the wrong one. So those are kind of a culmination of kind of the things I've learned, but let me give you a quick background to give you more context. So I actually grew up in this area. I went to Berkeley and I studied chemistry and environmental science. I never did engineering, but I have a technical and kind of a math sort of mind that helps me understand tech. And I was very lucky my senior year in college that my mom actually got me an internship at a biotech startup. And so before the whole internet and the software thing happened, biotech was actually the beginnings of entrepreneurialism. And I truly worked at what was called an incubator. An incubator is like a group of you guys all in a room trying to figure out ideas. And that sort of started this love of sort of startups and being in these small cultures. After I graduated from Berkeley, I did kind of a weird turn. I became an investment banker. And so, a little bit weird, but I became an investment banker, and part of the reason why I did that was partly out of luck, and partly was I worked on technology companies and mergers and acquisitions, so really helping companies buy and sell each other. And in that process, I was really exposed to, this was, back in 96 and 97, the very beginning of companies like Yahoo, Google wasn't even around, and so I started to see this whole world of startups and technology. After I did banking, I left, and then I basically started a career in technology. And basically my sweet spot is what's called product management. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of what that is in a tech world. Yes, no? Sort of? Okay. So the way I like to describe it is if you're making a building, I'm the architect, right? And so when you make a building, the product manager is the architect, my graphic designers are like the interior designers, and the builders are like the coders. So what I do is I really figure out like what's going to be on the website or the mobile app, like really the functionality, how's that going to work? I work with designers to make it look better, I work with developers to bring it to life, right? So I'm sort of the architect in sort of the software and internet. And I've almost always been focused on software and internet. So I joined a startup, but then after that I did a 6-year career at eBay. And really important thing for me about eBay was learning really about how to build teams and scale a business. And so there I had a team of about 20. I also moved into what's called more of a general management role, so really running a business and really understanding what it was like effectively to be like a CEO. I left, I took a little detours, had some fun. I think it's really important in your life, career life, to make sure you take time to do the other things you need to do. My parents were a little bit freaked out, being Asian. They were like, should you quit? I'm like, never a good time to quit, but sometimes you need to do that. And then basically I started on the path of founding companies. And so the first one I basically stumbled into, it was a former, what was called a technical architect at eBay, who was trying to find a way to actually build a search engine for Twitter. And so I basically stumbled upon it, and that was one of the experiences. For about 6 months, I described it as kind of like a boot camp for me, because I really sort of understood what it was about. But that's where I realized the lesson that I'm not very good at this. I'm not the person you want to build a search engine, and actually my partner is not the right person either to build a search engine. And then in that process, I also realized I didn't ask the important questions about partnership. Like, what do you want? How are decisions made? And so that one didn't quite work out. It was, a difficult breakup, but it happened. And so what it really started off with the course was like, okay, I realized I'm not the best for this. My team wasn't the best for this. So what do I really want to do? How do I think about it? And so there are a couple of things that kind of structured my framework. The first thing I focused on is what am I passionate about? And what I was passionate about is I'm passionate about women. I'm passionate about the world of commerce, right? And I'm passionate about consumer products. Like, I'm a consumer girl, so what that means is I get obsessed by like colors and design and what you guys use versus the stuff that Oracle does. Whatever, so I don't love it. Other people love that. I don't love it. So I love you can see me with the arms waving, I'm very consumer. So one is I kind of knew this sort of industry or this competency that I was interested in. The second is just what am I good at? Because I realized in this other company, even though I was doing product management, I'm not about writing search algorithms. Like, there are far more people better than that. And the reason why it's important to know what you're good at is if you're not good at it, you're not going to succeed, or it's going to be harder for you to succeed. So you have to tap into the passions, but also what you're really good at to optimize that intersection. So I realized what I'm good at is product, right? And what I realized I'm good at is knowing the consumer, understanding what they wanted, right? Then also the next thing I did was actually think about, okay, well, what are the problems I want to solve, right? And I was thinking about, because I'd been in this world of commerce, I'd been thinking, a lot of different problems, like how hard it is for like small brands to get distribution, et cetera, et cetera. So there basically was a methodology I used to think about kind of how do I decide what I myself am going to start? Because the previous idea is I just joined a friend basically and helped him out. So I came to all of that, and basically, you know, a lot of people talk about kind of proof of concepts. And so the idea that I decided on was, how many of you are familiar with like the Avon model, where women sell to other women? Okay, sort of. So there's a huge industry out there. It's $30 billion worldwide. It's actually bigger globally, where some of the cultures are more conducive. But a lot of companies actually sell their products through friends, right? Women holding parties, women selling to other women, rather than going through stores, right? So rather than going through Macy's or your local boutique, women sell to other women. And I thought this was super fascinating for multiple reasons. And what I basically wanted to do was take this distribution channel and open it up to all brands. Because the way that these companies typically work is that it's a company like Avon, and all they sell is their own brand through their women. And I thought, what if I could open up this channel to all these different brands? Kind of a big idea. So basically I started then going through kind of a proof of concept. And in that process, an old co-worker of mine who I used to work with, and who we'd always talked about starting a company, we started talking about the idea, and she was very interested in joining me as a co-founder. And we'll talk about this because when we worked together at a technology company, we were the best of friends. We worked unbelievably well together. We were terrible co-founders. I mean, we don't even talk today. We were just terrible co-founders. So the only reason why I tell you that is when you found a company, start a company with another person, it's very different than working with them in another environment. And so that was one of the downsides. But I'm going to fast forward a little bit with the company because we can talk about fundraising and all these other things. So basically after 3 years, I probably did one of the hardest things I could do is I left. So I left. This company was literally, I was the key founder. I started for 6 months. The people who gave me money were people who knew me, and I made the difficult decision to leave. And the reason why I left is I didn't actually see it being successful. And I didn't see my partner and me aligning on how to get to the next level. And I couldn't raise the level of money that I really needed. And so one of the most important things you should realize, if your idea is super visionary, I mean like think Elon Musk, you know, and like Tesla and SpaceX, you need money. You either need money or every single day that you work on it, you need to be trying to revolutionize the world, right? So we can talk more about that, but a lot of times you have to think about what your idea is about, and sort of if you're trying to bring down an old industry, an old $30 billion industry, you need money to help you along the way. Well, we can talk more about that. So then I left that, and it was really difficult, super, super difficult, and I'm happy to talk about all of the things I didn't do right. And at that company, I was a CEO. So I was out there, you know, pitching for money, and interestingly enough, I was doing the things that I wasn't the most passionate about, because between the two of us, I was the better CEO. I was the better sales and marketing, the financial person, kind of the face, right, being out there. But it wasn't actually what I loved the most, and we'll talk about that. So I left. It was terribly difficult, really, really hard. When partnerships fail, it's really hard. You know, I've never been married or divorced, but I assume it's just as traumatic. And so then I was like, what am I going to do next? And I promised myself that I would not start a company again. And lo and behold, I started another company. And so a little bit more fortuitously is I got connected via VC to a woman who was thinking about the same things that I was in e-commerce. And so how many of you guys know like Home Shopping Network or QVC, where people watch TV and you can buy products? So we're basically doing the next generation of that, but for girls 18 to 24, focused on fashion and through mobile. So we really call it shoppertainment. So it's allowing you to watch the videos of your favorite YouTube girls, see their Instagram pictures, and actually buy the products that they're talking about through mobile and through the internet. So I met this woman, and I was like, oh my God, I so was not going to start another company again, because you kind of need a break. And the thing though, the reason why I decided to join was not only was this idea something I was passionate about and I believed in, but more importantly is I didn't have to do things I didn't like doing, right? So I get to singularly focus on building products. We built a mobile app in 2.5 months, and that thing is like my baby. So I got to focus on exactly what I wanted to do, and all the things I didn't want to do, she as a CEO gets to do. You know, and I was very honest with her when I saw her. I was like, I don't want to be CEO. I'm done with that. And so that's kind of where I am right now, is that, you know, I get to work with a team of 3 engineers. They all work for us, but they're remote. Our business also has sort of what's called a merchandising, so there's actually clothes that we buy and sell. There's a team that actually works with all the YouTube girls and the Instagram girls, and then we have, and then we have the CEO running about. So where that company is, just to let you know, is we raised about $2 million in seed financing, and I can talk about financing as you want. And we're at a state where, to be honest, you know, we've been around since last August, and for us, we really need to prove ourselves out this fall in order to raise the next round of money. But that's kind of, I probably went a little longer than I thought, but that's sort of my background. So there's big company, like appreciating why I was there, learned a lot, and then have gone into the entrepreneurial mode, primarily, well, only in consumers, and really focused on internet and mobile. And all of those led to this. So, so I'm going to pause a little bit, see if there's any questions that just jump out. Yes, typically, you know, from $250,000 to a couple million. The next and hard part is to get what's called Series A. So there's been a lot of talk in the industry about how everyone's getting seed, but getting to that next level is like, there's a lot of like carcasses. And so Series A is, I would say, you want to go from 4 maybe to 8 to 10 million. And Series A is when you have venture capitalists come in and you have someone who leads the round. So you basically have someone who gives them the majority of the money.